Okay, welcome back. It's my first one after permissionless, been in the States for a couple of weeks. In this one, we're going to primarily cover the Polymarket story and the bet and the controversy surrounding the Zelensky suit and what's happened there and all the intricacies of like the reason that the decentralized oracles are potentially throwing up some controversy for the Yanks and what that means, how we fix that, whether AI and LLMs are the solution to this kind of thing and prediction markets as a whole. Going to spend some time obviously talking about the LetsBONK Pump.fun thing, what that means for the Bonk token, what this means for Pump.fun as opposed to LetsBONK. Are we going back into the shitstorm of another Memecoin casino, or could we actually have something positive come out of this? And then we're also asking the key question, is there any point in crypto anymore? And we'll get into why there might be, why there might not be, and yeah, you can see what you think. So if you're just tuning in now, please like, please subscribe, and yeah, enjoy it. Straight into it, I suppose. Top headline is, unsurprisingly, the LetsBONK flipping pump, basically unseating that as the top launch pad, daily meme coin volume. I'm going to get into why that has happened, like why now, more specifically, given that it's been around a while, what that means for memes, utility, bonk, all that kind of thing. Want to talk about the Polymarket drama with Zelensky and the suit. Is it gold and white or blue and black? Did he wear a suit? We'll let you decide that. Elon is also Elon has said that he's launching the America Party, which sounds like horse shit, if I'm honest. But maybe we'll get into that. FTX Recovery Trust has asked the court for permission to make procedures that could affect how or if claim payouts are distributed in 49 foreign jurisdictions deemed potentially restricted. Two new old Bitcoin wallets for over a decade woke up last week, 2 billion in BTC. And there's a little one for you. Nasdaq listed company Nanolabs revealed it purchased up to 74,000 BNB tokens for roughly 50 million at an average price of 672. Robinhood launched a tokenization of private equity shares from major firms, including OpenAI, but OpenAI has then said it's not real and they didn't partner with Robinhood. And a new organization, the Ethereum Community Foundation, launched with the motive of treasury of millions in ETH to fund projects that are immutable, tokenless, and ultimately support Ethereum's monetary policy. So there's a few nice little headlines for you. So the first one we're going to get into, though, is the Polymarket stuff. So
you got it.
Look, I've got it. I have got the story. I'm going to get it up, and then I want to know what you think of this. But I'm going to give a little bit of background here, just before we start riffing on this one. So essentially, the long and short of the drama here is there was a market opened up on Polymarket. I'm not sure when it was now, probably some time ago, that basically Zelensky said he would not wear a suit until the war in Ukraine was over. I'm not laughing about that, by the way. That's not a laughing matter by any stretch. But we have had a little bit of controversy in the past week or so, because basically the decentralized like UMA oracles, which like determine how markets are settled on Polymarket, caused a little bit of a stir. And there's some allegations of whale market manipulation, because there's it's like a 12 million bet or something on the line here over whether or not Zelensky was wearing a suit. I will pull the picture of the suit up at some point as well, but I'm going to rattle through this story first, and then we can get into what your thoughts are on it. So Polymarket's UMA Oracle drama erupts over Zelensky's jacket. Was it a suit or not? Feels very loose women, this, by the way. But so Polymarket has found itself in the spotlight again, and this time it's about whether Jesus would come in 2025 when Bitcoin hits a new high. A $12 million prediction market bet on whether Zelensky wore a suit to a NATO meeting has ignited debate, casting doubt on the reliability of decentralized resolution systems and how much influence financially invested voters might have. So this is one of the tweets, if you're listening on Spotify here, because I know people do, even though Grant would lead you to believe that people don't listen on Spotify. But people are very, very angry and say that it was a suit because of this 12 million bet. And according to the Oracle, it isn't. Now, what this has done is it's thrown up some questions about how much the sort of decentralized like information oracle providers work, like, and how much influence certain whales can have, as I said. So I'm just going to read off a little bit more of this. So Polymarket, the decentralized prediction market, utilizes Yuma's optimistic oracle as part of its resolution mechanism to determine the outcomes of its betting markets, as I've explained. So how this works is it's provide a decentralized and trustless way to resolve a market outcome by allowing proposers to submit data, which is then subject to a challenge period. If unchallenged, the submitted data is accepted as truth. However, if disputed, the resolution falls to Yuma's data verification mechanism, where Yuma token holders vote to finalize the outcome. In the context of the Zelensky suit market, the reliance on Yuma's oracle has been a point of contention, with critics alleging that token holders with financial stakes may manipulate votes. Where have we heard this before? The bet stems from the fact that Zelensky had previously stated he wouldn't wear a suit, but now, as you can see in this image, which again, if you're listening on Spotify, looks a bit suity.
Exhibit A, like, a man in a suit.
This is like the crypto Queer Eye episode.
yeah. Or it reminds me of like every so often when like the markets get a bit heavy and stuff like that, and I just can't be asked with the feed. I'll flick over to football Twitter, and I'm always greeted by all my mates tweeting Bet365 and William Hill, because they're fucking furious that they had £100 bet on that there'd be X amount of shots on target, and whether or not something was a shot on target. Now, this feels a little bit like that. It's football Twitter coming home to roost. Yeah, but obviously the undercurrent here is not whether any of us three idiots think that this was a suit or not. It's the settlement infrastructure on Polymarket. So yeah, have you been following this one, guys? What do you think of what we sort of seen from this story?
I think we can have a quick decentralized vote here. Raise your hand if you think it was a suit. 1, 2. Grant's saying no, me, Alex is saying yes.
How many tokens have you got, Granty?
I think it's an overshirt, personally.
So the thing is about it on the fashion sense is like, because he hasn't got a tie, like in the typical sense, you could argue it's not a suit because he hasn't got a tie, hasn't finished it off. But how many of us have got married not wearing a tie, and you would still call it your wedding suit, like, do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a contentious one.
Yeah, but there's also like your birthday suit as well. He's not walking around, is it?
No, I think I don't know. Actually, go on. It does draw a major point around, should the largest kind of predictions market on the planet, or is pushing towards that, be kind of underpinned by UMA with a market cap of just like $90 million and the potential for manipulation to take place with some very high stakes on the table here. So like with a few million, I guess you could try and swing some votes, but even worse, obviously you can get around to causing some collusion here by getting certain whales to vote in your favor. So one of the kind of damning things that I found looking into this was in the UMA Discord, I think one of the admins stated that he voted no, as he voted no, not that he didn't believe it was a suit, but he thought that the vote was going to no, so didn't want to be penalized. So you kind of have the gravitational pull of the whales. So if you're voting against them, I think there's some penalization that takes place. So you've got to be on the right side. Although you should just be voting for what you believe is correct, obviously, but that's not really happening here. So it's a bit of a shady one and a major gray area. And I think we got like 15 hours till decision time. I think there's a countdown on the Polymarket website right now.
Right. So before I go to you on that, Grant, I just want to add a little bit more color here. So this market attracted it's like over $150 million in total volume, obviously at the time of publishing, which this was yesterday. And then it's the DeFi Police, funny enough, account called out Polymarket concerning the situation as it became one of the most watched event markets on the platform. So DeFi Police had said that UMA voters may resolve the bet as no because whales have financial incentives to do so, as I've said, and then as Gaz has explained, some of the politics that are going behind the scenes there. But then where it's problematic is that over 40 plus news outlets have confirmed that he did wear a suit. Surreal, like going over this over and over and over again. And then the calls that Polymarket are getting is that they need to take a step of integrity towards resolving this market in the way that people feel is the fair resolution, which is that it in fact was a suit. Grant,
can you bring up the market in the private chat that I've sent you? Because this for me is starting to feel a bit GME-ish, a bit GameStop-ish. The issue is it's the underlying resolution mechanism. Now, when something is ambiguous like this, and it isn't just a complete black and white yes or no binary outcome, prediction markets, that's where they are. That's where they do fall short, right? So, how could you potentially fix this? So, reading between the lines, you've seen the recent kind of Grok integration. There has been a couple of protocols that have been spinning up recently that are using LLMs or a mixture of LLMs, which would all be sourcing their information from somewhat different sources, but kind of like they're only just scraping the information that's presented to them. So can you use AI as a resolution factor as opposed to human input? So that is probably what we're going to see going forward. I don't think that collaboration with Grok is by any stretch of the imagination just because it looks good from a core marketing perspective. I think there's definitely something underlying there. I think the Polymarket team are well aware that this is the biggest issue that they've got. I do feel like it's a little bit, there's a 50-1 trade here if this pulls off. Right. So
there's a what? Sorry, I think you broke up ever so slightly as you said that.
There's a 50-1 trade if it resolves the DS. So show me the incentive, show you the outcome. And when there's so much upside on the line, or people have actually bet yes and they're considerably down, those are the people that you're going to hear from the loudest. Now, I don't really have the answer. I don't think anyone does, hence why this is a fucking problem. So do you resolve it by just giving everyone their money back and everyone who's made money to the upside loses out and face backlash there? Or do you resolve to the other side and make everyone who's betting yes currently at the 2 cents prices 50x payout? There is no right answer, which is partly the problem. The issue with people online is they can't hold conflicting opinions and realize that everything is very, very nuanced, right? Yeah. And this is just like when you add like a financial layer on top of it, that's when shit gets really, really messy. But there isn't a real way to resolve this. But if anything, no one will care in a week. No one literally will care in a week. So
we've seen that tape play out before, haven't we? But you touched on it there, Grant, that one of the resolutions that people are calling for is like an LLM based, which obviously you've talked about Grok and stuff, and I think that there's it's like PNP, it's like a Solana based exchange. I don't know why I keep messing my words up today. That do use that. So Chaos Labs Edge Proofs Oracles are experimenting with. I can't talk today. Experimenting with AI to verify historical data.
Crack in America.
Skid Row.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, platforms as True Market Org are exploring a more transparent or KYC compliant mechanisms. What's the answer there? Dirty KYC.
Yeah, put it off chain. Fucking put it off chain. Just settle it like a fucking a sports betting book.
No, I think AI is going to be the answer long term here, and you'll have various arbiters from AI LLMs. That's kind of the gen layer approach, isn't it? So I think they've got to move with multiple sources here and not just use Zuma. I think that's just been uncovered a few times to be not efficient enough, and it's left a bad taste. So there's only so many times they can have this blow up in their face before they have to make a change, or people aren't going to come back and keep using Polymarket. Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on from this one, what's your predictions? How does this end? Gaz, you first. What's the resolution?
I think they might just stick with the current outcome, which is no.
Yeah, I think they resolve to no.
Yeah, take the backlash and then maybe fix it on the back of that.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're fucked either way. Like,
yeah, it's as you say. I think it's a case of people not understanding the nuance of things as well. So, welcome to William Hill's world. Right. So, anyway, this one, moving on swiftly, is Pump.fun. So, what do you think of this? Well, regardless of what you think of the Memecoin casino, which we were all sort of dancing on the grave of not so long ago, could be about to be reignited. I should know whether that was a word or not. So, is Pump,
Definitely not a word.
As that came out of my mouth, I was like, "It's reignited." You literally studied journalism, you moron.
It's a tune, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Pump.fun losing its crown, so LetsBONK dominates the daily token metrics. So some context here. In the past week or so, as I say, I've been out of touch with it with being in the States, but LetsBONK, which actually launched in April last year, has just absolutely been blowing Pump.fun away as far as volume, launches, everything like that. And if you're watching, you can see on screen here what we're looking at. But then if you're on Spotify, in the last 24 hours at the time of publishing, again, this was yesterday, which was the 7th of July, you've had over 18,000 tokens on LetsBONK and 9,600 on Pump. And it's all everyone's talking about. It's obviously on the back of the original Bonk meme. And kind of all of a sudden we've seen this ecosystem now sprouting up. New era for launchpads, more of the same. Where does this go from here? Let's start with that. Gaz, why do you think this is happening?
I think it's something we've touched on numerous times now, which is like the Pump.fun game being up and it's being botted to hell and you have no edge, and thus people were looking for an alternative way to speculate on meme coins. And what we've seen time and time again is the obituary for meme coins has been written on numerous occasions, but they keep coming back because people like to speculate on tokens that start at zero and can potentially provide them with life-changing gains, which we can't do on centralized exchange coins, which is the kind of the tail of this cycle. So we found a new playground, and you've had a few kind of PvE environments occur, some major runners over the last like 3-4 weeks, I would say, in particular. And this has obviously sparked more people focusing more time on Bonk rather than Pump.fun. So LetsBONK has obviously seen some serious uptick in numbers, and now you have a bit of a hungry wolf on the hill looking up at Bonk and saying, looking up at Pump.fun saying we can come and take market share off these. And I think this week's proven that is possible now. And it kind of feels like Pump.fun, by delaying the TGE, has majorly dropped the ball here. And I don't think they would have expected this one. So you've kind of got a flash in the pan 12th of July date that was stated in over last night. But then that's kind of been redacted as well. There was like a Gate.io page that came up that's not been confirmed by the Pump.fun official channels. So there seems to be some movement going on here. And I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with this TGE event, but I think Bonk has firmly put Pump.fun on their back heels here. So definitely interesting one. I'm wondering what your take is on this one, Grant.
Yeah, I've obviously seen this Gate page, which is like really confusing. It doesn't really add up to me that this would come out from a secondary source without going through like official channels, like official communication channels. So this is basically saying that they'll have, of the 1 billion raising at 4 billion valuation, the billion that they were selling, so 25%.
This is Pump, by the way.
This is Pump on
screen.
Just to kind of like set the scene a little bit. Of the $1 billion raise that they were selling, 40% to private investors, then the rest was apparently going to the public round. If they are using Gate.io for this, that's initially fucking red flags, unless it's like distributed across multiple different centralized exchanges. But immediately, there's no fucking way I'd be participating on a public sale on Gate.io. That's already kind of red flags for me. So why I think it's happening is everything in crypto is comps, it's comparables, like it's comparisons. If they're raising at a private round valuation of 4 billion. If there is a comparable trade to be had on the open market where people can get basically buy as much as it is physically possible on spot or perps, which is the Bonk token, then you start looking at the Bonk asset as a comp to the Pump asset. So it's currently trading at, I think it's like 1.5 billion, maybe around that range. Someone can probably correct me while I'm going on this rant.
1.8.
1.8. So still kind of 2x away from what Pump are looking to raise. Is there a catch-up trade there to be had? And I think it just becomes like attention begets liquidity, begets like this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that kind of continues to happen. We've seen it time and time again over the past few years. There is a little bit of that about it, but then at the same time, I think people are just fucking sick of losing money on Pump.fun, to be honest. And it kind of feels like you've got to remember Bonk was initially a community airdrop to early Solana contributors, early Solana users. It kind of gave like the ecosystem a stimulus kick up the arse when it was really down on its luck after FTX. And everything that's came from that is a very aligned way to kind of position itself within the ecosystem. You look at the fees from LetsBONK, 50% go to buying Bonk off the market and then burning it. Look at what Pump have done. They've effectively sold $700 million worth of Solana over the past 18 months. The remaining, there's like a 10% fee from the LetsBONK fees that go towards buying Bonk Sol, which is their liquid staking token. So on one hand, it feels like max extraction versus huge community alignment. And it's now like, this is like the battleground of which one will win out. And I think Pump have already had their day in the sun. I think people within the ecosystem probably won't say it publicly, are probably extremely pissed off of the way that they've kind of conducted themselves. So I think this is what's playing out. And I think when this kind of happens is the more aligned to the ecosystem will win and will prevail, which I think is Bonk. And you can kind of see that they've fast-tracked to bring this TG forward. So we'll see.
Yeah. So the other thing, obviously, is like the amount of tokens that have graduated. Now, what obviously significantly higher. I think it's like a 3x higher than Pump in the last 24 hours. But in relation to everything we're talking about, the token as well, from just an actual launchpad point of view, my thinking was that people were, as you said, just sick of getting their fingers burnt with the way that Pump is structured and people just launching absolute trash. What's to say that just can't happen again in a different playground?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen again. And there's some stats showing that some of the serial shitcoin launchers on Pump are now migrated over to Bonk and are launching at 300 a day. So people are going to move, the scammers are going to move to where the money is. So this probably ends in a similar story further down the line, but you're in innings 1 versus Pump's innings 9. And yeah, it's that kind of alignment as you touched on. I think one of the things that I saw this week, which was interesting, was like the juxtaposition of the Elon screenshot, which is the Pump.fun dev, where he was like, what are we able? And he had 24 Sol in the wallet, like taking the pit, off ramp $750 million. And then you had Solport Tom from LetsBONK, who had like 800K in a wallet, and he's actively trading in the trenches, and he's kind of on the same path as everyone else, kind of thing. So it was that real juxtaposition of these guys are trenches, this guy is max extract and taking the Michael out of us as well at the same time.
Yeah. What have you, because I was going to ask a different question there, so what have you pulled up here, Grant, and just give context as well on this one?
So yeah, for people who are incels and listening on Spotify, the Adam Tech. Yeah, please rate 5 stars.
Rate 5 stars, even though Grant thinks
incels find this.
Rate 5 stars, even though Grant thinks you're weird. I'm one of you. I'm a Spotify guy. Carry on.
So Adam, who creates the best trenches dashboards that are available for anyone who likes to have a little look behind the curtain of what's actually going on, has tweeted out the infamous, and then like a wallet string, so VFCDJ, a wallet that has made 3.5 million, creating 40,000 plus Pump fund launches, is now creating 300 plus tokens per day on the Bonk launchpad. So,
right.
Yeah,
so,
like, I don't know. I have no answer to that one.
Okay, so then basically all we're saying here then is it's a PR problem for Pump.fun more than it is LetsBONK being a better platform.
I think it's a statistical outcome problem. Like, even if you look, it's graduation rate, right? And then it's like, if you go down into a little bit more granularity, how many tokens survive past 1 mil for X amount of days, how many survive past 5 mil past X amount of days, and then how many continue to go over 10, 50, 100, blah, blah, blah. Because that's really what people are buying the lottery ticket for, right? It's not just because tokens are fucking graduating. So graduation rate on Bonk is significantly higher. I think it's like 1.06%. Pump is anywhere from like 0.6 to 0.7 on any given day. And then it's also like the real key part about all of this is, if you are looking for edge before edge is completely eroded, which it has on Pump.fun, it's the active wallet addresses that are participating on the new Pump launches. It's like 40% of, maybe up to 50% after like what's happened over the past couple of days, but there's 50% less wallets, active wallets in the Bonk on LetsBONK, with a higher graduation percentage and more tokens launched. So statistically, it makes sense, even if you're launching tokens or if you're trying to buy tokens, on the backdrop of the PR nightmare. So it all adds up and it all tells like a much greater story. Plus, like this whole Solana alignment issue, which I think Pump have fucked themselves on, to be honest. Let's remember, they also launched on Blast when they initially started. This is all because of the Alliance DAO alignment, which have kind of got their little knickers in a twist over the past few days, because you've kind of seen... Yeah, I've seen a couple of tweets saying they're dancing on the battleground when the first shot hasn't even been fired or something along those lines. So we'll see. We'll see.
So our Bonk wading into dangerous territory is not our. Or do you think this can be still a success and that we don't end up with like the detritus? Which maybe that's the the edge that, as I say, Gaz, you're saying, like, just play it right, don't be stupid.
It's probably euthanasia roller coaster, isn't it?
So have you final point? Have you started playing it yet? Are you back in the casino, lads?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised, Gaz.
Yeah.
No, I haven't actually played. I've just been buying some odd tokens. I haven't used the platform yet, but yeah, it is kind of like the gamblers got sick at the one casino and they're offering free drinks at the next one. So
yeah, true. Yeah. So
yeah, you can use our telemetry ref link that's in the description to get Alex into rehab after his crackfield week in America.
So right, what Gaz has just said, the gamblers moving from one casino to the other, leads me on to a tweet that I wanted to bring up here today, which is basically, what are we all doing here? Now, I'm being facetious, but I saw this yesterday, which generated a bit of discussion on CT. It's a tweet from Satvic, and I'm going to read it out because many people listen on Spotify. What is even the point of crypto anymore? I'm genuinely curious. We had NFTs with perpetual royalties for creators. We removed that. We had the microfinancing for underprivileged communities. Privileged folks abused that and removed that. We had close-knit communities of believers. We started incentivizing farmers and removed that. We had private finance rails for the unbanked. We removed that. We had secure identity for vulnerable populations. We sold out the data and removed that. We had private payments. We rolled up into banks and as endpoints and removed that. We had alternative investment vehicles. We integrated with TradFi and we removed that. So what is even the point of crypto anymore? I'm genuinely curious. What do you think of this initially before I rattle through some replies? Gaz, you first.
Just thought it was so pessimistic and negative. I think whoever wrote this needs a big hug, to be fair. But it's kind of one of those things, like, depends how you're viewing the markets, right? If you've just got your ass handed to you on the 55th dog iteration on Pump.fun, you're going to start feeling like this, I guess. But if you do zoom out and you see what has been built during this cycle, there have been obviously some key takeaways and breakthroughs. So it hasn't all been doom and gloom. But I think because people haven't made money hand over fist, they're very fed up this cycle. They were expecting to do a lot better than they have. So that's kind of why people feel so jaded right now. And you can just see that on the timeline all the time. The amount of negative tweets that get huge engagement is a little bit worrying. But I think that's a societal trend in terms of where we are everywhere globally right now. Things are in a bit of disarray, aren't they? So it's this kind of fourth turning that's potentially going to occur. People are probably near all-time lows on morale, I would suggest. So that's kind of why people are talking like this. But I think broadly there are positives, and you should probably look for the positives rather than focus on the negatives, as it is bad for your mental.
Yeah, I've started unfollowing doomers. Like if I see just a tweet that I'm like, you whinging bastard, I just think, oh, fuck off. Yeah, I just give me an echo chamber. That's all I want. I just want an echo chamber of positivity all the time. So Grant, what do you think?
Bias all over the place.
Yeah, I just want confirmation bias. Everything else, ram it. Yeah.
I kind of agree with guys. I think it's every 4 years over the past 14 to however many years it's like this industry's been around. Everyone thinks it can just turn up and get a big fat stimulus check. The market structure has completely changed. Everyone kind of agree with it. At some point, we kind of cried for years and years and years for institutions to come buy the bags, and now the institutions come and bought the bags. It's got significantly harder. Plus, on the backdrop of this ridiculous oversupply of token problems that have just been completely funded to smithereens, and pushed a tweet out yesterday from Tokenomists where it's $1.5 billion worth of unlocks happening next week. It's consistent near enough every week. It's like there is not the demand to prop up this. So if you read or if you actually went by the book of how you should actually invest in an emerging asset class and try to buy fundamentally sound bags or tokens, you've been fucked. Unless you bought Bitcoin, Hype, and maybe Farcoin, which wouldn't fall under that kind of fundamentally sound bracket if you were trying to be too mid-curve, you've been completely fucked because you haven't had that return on it. So this is why we're seeing tokenized stocks come on chain. This is why we're seeing pre-IPO stuff come on chain. This is why people want exposure to gold on chain. It's because people just want to buy stuff that goes up. Categorically, they don't really give a shit what it is. But when you're sticking by the book, doing everything you're told, buying stuff that is fundamentally sound and it just doesn't go up, you just start to think, well, what the fuck's the point? Why didn't I just go and buy some Anduril or fucking Palantir that's ripped fucking 4 billion bajillion % on Nvidia, and not have to kind of worry if I'm going to get my assets rugged from a phishing link or if something's just going to get decimated overnight because the founder keeps buying his girlfriend Hermes handbags. So there is this complete jadedness. I don't really know the way out of it. And I think to be actively invested in trading, you have to be significantly better going forward. It's not this stimulus handout that is what people come to expect from the industry. I think you have to have something about you. I think you have to have a really strong crew around you that are doing this shit all day, every day. And I think just turning up and throwing shit at the wall off opening CoinGecko and just scrolling across the screen and think, oh, I'll buy this, it'll go up 10x in a couple of weeks. That's what it used to be like. I think those days are gone, if I'm honest. So that's my thought on probably why everyone's feeling the same.
So I'm hearing two things now. I'm hearing that you are fundamentally in it for the tech, i.e. on-chain.
When it goes up.
Blockchain. When it goes up. And I'm also hearing that you're telling me that TA and horoscopes for us is the way forward. Is that what you're saying? Trading courses. Are we going to start selling trading courses?
Yeah, we're going to start selling them on WAP, and then we're going to tokenize it through the Believe app and buy Evelyn some more handbags.
And on that note, I think we'll draw that to a close, fellas. 33 minutes and out. Any final thoughts?
Can I just bring up one thing finally, just around that point off? I think despite the noise, I think there is a lot of good fundamental stuff that people are just completely overlooking. And I think this one is the most important. Why are we actually here?
I saw you post this earlier in the gym. So
again, for the incels on Spotify that can't read, this is the DEX to SEX spot trading volume chart, which I always remember, always at any opportunity whenever I was writing about decentralized exchange. I remember the early blockmates articles, right? Trader Joe, if this trend continues, blah, 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 this is what these assets could potentially look like. It always sat around 4 and 5%. It's now at its all-time highs, coming in at roughly 30%. So the DEX decentralized exchange spot volume is now up to 30% of the centralized exchange spot volume. And if that isn't positive, I don't really know what is, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be fair access, permissionless, being able to access assets that you can't necessarily access anywhere else. And I think the centralized exchanges have fucked themselves over by only listing stuff. These tier one listings where they've got like bajillion % of the supply, and then as incredible down only technology. This is like a good indicator in my opinion. I think the world coming on chain makes the world a better place in all honesty. So yeah, there are some problems to solve with tokens that just categorically aren't going up, but we might get there in the end.
Thank you, Grant. That was warm. So yeah, is that us for the week?
I think so.
Nice one. Glad to be back. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
thanks, Grant.
Good one.
Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. I don't care about YouTube. I don't really care what you do. If you want to subscribe,
all my YouTube,
fine. But
all my YouTube homies are giving us a like and
competition
subscribe now.
The problem is the Spotify crowd. I don't get to hear from them because you can't leave a comment.
You can. So you can leave comments now.
Yeah, but who looks at them? We don't.
No, exactly. So if the Spotify incels, if the Spotify's are the incels, what are the YouTube listeners?
Risk of like offending absolutely everyone that listens to this at this point.
Leave us a comment to let us know what you should be called. We'll call you it from next week.
All the links are in the bottom as well if you want to subscribe to the newsletter and daily alpha insights, everything from Hickson. If you are finding us via YouTube, that we will always appreciate that. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Grant. I'll see you on the next one.